My name's Tim Denbo. I'm the president and CEO of VirtualTourCafe. Today I've got with me Michael Lee. Michael, welcome.
Tim, thank you.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
I want to tell you just a little bit about Michael. I met Michael last week at the Valley Real Estate Network. Mike was a speaker there, and I was so impressed I really wanted to bring him here and share some of his knowledge with all of our customers across the U.S. and Canada. Michael Lee has such an impressive history and background that I think if we were to go into all of the details, it would probably just take up the entire interview here. So Michael Lee is an award-winning real estate agent and broker since 1977. He's a professional speaker. He's an author of 7 books now. We might even be able to get him to tell us if there's another one coming. And he's CRS certified, GRI. He's earned $75,000 in commission in 1 month. Just, it goes on and on and on. Michael is the first Asian American in history to be to earn the Certified Speaking Professional certification. That's the CSP by the National Speakers Association. Master instructor with the California Association of Realtors. Certified financial planner. If that weren't enough, Michael is also an enrolled agent to practice taxation before the IRS. CLU chartered life underwriter. Where do you get the time to do all this, Michael?
In my spare time, too.
Okay. So Michael's also been called as an expert witness in real estate court cases where culture is an issue. Michael is truly an expert when it comes, at least in my opinion, my humble opinion, when it comes to multicultural topics. He's written 7 books, one of them, Opening Doors, that I just read this last week. He's also written one on negotiating that I want to read. It looks fantastic. So, Michael, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first thing really, after hearing you last week speak, I really thought to myself, well, how can Michael and your expertise with multicultural and real estate issues and transactions, how can that help our clients? How can that help all of our agents and brokers across the United States and Canada? And so the first question that really came to me was, do you find that this topic is really just for the East Coast and the West Coast where most of the cultures have been diversified to a great degree, or do you find that it's true all over the country?
No, Jim, it is true everywhere. It's hard to find any little pocket. So what you've got to do is you have to adjust your real estate practices. But one of the things I think, Tim, that real estate agents have got to realize is you don't want to insult your customers if you want to build relationships with them. And unfortunately, we tend to insult our customers unknowingly and unintentionally, probably 3 or more times in the first 30 seconds. The first thing we do is we try and shake people's hands. Whereas a lot of clients from other countries and other cultures, they don't want to shake your hand. So what I suggest to realtors, what they do is let the customer tell them how they want to be greeted. Instead of shaking their hand automatically, just welcome them. Say, hi, welcome to ABC Realty, and see what the customer does. If the customer puts their hand out, go ahead and shake it. But if not, just do what they do. They will probably just nod to you or whatever, and you just do the same, and then you just move them on into your office.
I found when you were talking last week, you had mentioned something about in some cultures it's not only impolite, but it can be considered an insult to shake the hand of a female. Is that the wife or of a woman? Is that found in a lot of cultures?
In many cultures.
Okay.
The Middle Eastern culture, the Asian Indian culture, the Japanese culture. It can be very insulting to touch a woman that is not your relative or spouse. And so, again, what we want to do as realtors is we want to let the customer tell us how they want to be greeted rather than assuming.
That's fascinating. One of the things that I found in your book that I read this last week is consistently you would come back to just ask. Just ask.
But people are so afraid to ask people about their culture because we're afraid to offend them. But if you don't ask people about their culture, the only other option you've got is to make assumptions about that person and their culture, and you're much more likely to offend people by making assumptions than simply by asking them. Ask them, can I ask you, where are your ancestors from? What language do you speak? What food do you like? How does that impact your purchase of a home? And just integrate that into your presentation, and you'll do great with people from other countries and other cultures.
I loved your example in the book where it talks about President Roosevelt and his wife sitting at a table at a luncheon, and there was going to be a speaker, and President Roosevelt's wife, tell me if I've got this story wrong, President Roosevelt's wife was sitting there, and she was seated next to an Asian-looking man,
Yes.
and he was very quiet and didn't really talk, and so she assumed that he probably didn't speak English.
But she was trying to make conversation.
But she tried to make conversation, okay. And so when the soup was served, Mrs. Roosevelt looked over at the Asian and said, "You likey soupy?" And he just smiled and nodded, and the luncheon went on, and it was time to introduce the keynote speaker, and the keynote speaker rose, which was the Asian next to Mrs. Roosevelt. As he gave his speech in perfect English, at the end of the speech, she was red-faced, and the Chinese consulate or something.
When he sat down,
he looked at Mrs. Roosevelt and said, "You likey speechy?"
That's just an example of we've got to stop assuming.
Yes.
And so instead, just ask your customers anything you want to ask them about their culture, about their needs when it comes to buying a home.
That's fantastic. That's great advice, I think, for all of us. Let me ask you, we are a virtual tour company,
Yes.
That's whether it's virtual tours or marketing in general. How would virtual tours, or how would our customers, both in the U.S. and Canada, is there anything that we or they should be doing differently when it comes to virtual tours and multicultural clients?
Well, I don't think they need to do too much different, Tim. I mean, more pictures would be great.
Okay.
But a lot of people from other countries and other cultures really like the virtual tour because they get an opportunity to see the property before they actually go there. Many cultures, particularly the Asian culture, they're very visual.
Okay.
Where did this saying come from? A picture is worth 1,000 words. Came from China thousands of years ago.
Is that right?
And they love looking at pictures because the Asian languages are built on pictures.
Okay.
Not words, not letters.
Okay.
It's all pictures. In fact, the language is nothing but pictures.
Now, there's a fine line, obviously. I've actually had one of our clients create a virtual tour with 154 pictures. We don't limit our clients. So out there, you can create a virtual tour with as many pictures as you want. But there does obviously come to a point where you're doing too many.
Yeah.
What do you think? 20, 30 maximum?
Yeah, tops I'd say 30. Okay. But, 150, you kind of get lost around 57 or 58, I think. But, a lot of people love to see the property before they go there.
That's fantastic.
And that would really give them an opportunity to be able to see the property, get a feel for it. That's why I think virtual tour is so important. People love to be able to see that property and get a feel for the property before they actually go out there.
Narrow down their list, get it down to the top 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 or whatever.
Because I don't want to be confused by looking at 18 houses. I only want to see 3 or 4 of the ones that I really want to see. And I'll know that. The only way I'll really know that is by the virtual tour.
Very good. Any one last tip that you can give in addition to what you've already said that'll help our customers today?
Well, all I want to say, Tim, is when it comes to working with people from other countries and other cultures, they're the most wonderful clients you'll ever meet. Just recognize they don't necessarily have to work with somebody from their own culture. In many cases, they don't want to work with somebody from their own culture because they may be afraid that if they tell their agent how much property they currently own, how much money they owe to other people, that agent, if they're from their own culture, might spread that information around their community. Whereas if they work with somebody who's not from their culture, they're a little more assured of their privacy. So don't worry about what culture you happen to be from. If you treat people with sensitivity to their culture, they're happy to work with you. But again, always ask them about their culture and just have a great time because they'll be some of the greatest clients you'll ever work with.
Fantastic. Michael, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
And by the way, where can people find your books? And, if they want to order one of your books, because I really found a great value in it. And so how would they get a hold of one of your books?
Well, thank you. All they've got to do is go to my website, which is ethnoconnect.com, ethnoconnect.com, and everything is there that they want to know. If they want to email me, they can do that from the website as well. If they have any questions about people from other countries or other cultures, happy to answer their questions.
And Michael's also a national speaker, so I'm sure that there's...
You want to book me? Let me know.
There you go. Okay. Well, thanks, Michael. Thanks
Thank you,
again.
Tim.
Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Make it a great day.